Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise and this is 10 to Life. The case we're talking about today is one that a lot of you guys have actually been requesting that I cover, which is what got me looking into it. And it's interesting because I'm seeing so many people out there on social media post about this case, yet nobody is quite talking about it. And I haven't seen anybody talking about it on YouTube. So you've been requesting it. Doesn't appear there's much coverage, so I'm going to just break it all down for you, and we're going to go through this case together. It all started on Thursday, January 13th, when a rancher discovered the body of 43-year-old Gabriel Quintanilla in an open field in McAllen, Texas. Gabriel's body apparently had suffered blunt force trauma to the head, and it appeared to have been beaten to a bloody pulp. But who was this man? Who could have done this ruthless and very personal crime? And why was he the target of such hatred? I mean, this is just such a hands-on personal thing. Well, what police soon learned would not only shock them, but it would also lead to unanswered questions about who Gabriel was and who was responsible for this crime. So we are going to talk about it all right now. Smash that like button, guys, and let's get into it.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
All right, guys, as I mentioned, my name is Elise, and this is 10 to Life, where we talk everything true crime. If you are brand new stopping by for the first time, welcome, and I hope you enjoy today's case video. If you haven't subscribed yet and you enjoy it, make sure you hit that subscribe button below on your way out, or even now. It won't pause the video, so hit it right now, guys. And for you returning subscribers, welcome back. I'm happy to have you joining me again today. Before we get into the case, guys, I want to just make a sidebar comment, and kind of feels ridiculous that I even need to say this, but the amount of comments and questions I have been getting about this particular topic is just now exceedingly high, and so I feel like it's annoying to have to address, but I'm going to address it. So on every video I post, I have probably at least 15 to 20 people either comment or message me privately asking me about the part in my hair. You heard that right. Literally, where my hair is parted. They say they're either asking if I'm wearing extensions because it looks like I have a halo or something right here, which I guess is like a clear band, or they say most often I get, it looks like your part is a cross, which I guess looking at it now on the camera, it does look like an upside down cross. And people are asking me if I did that myself and if I shaved it that way to make it look like that. No. So if you have been a follower on this channel for a while, you already know this, but let me just give you a little bit of an explanation. When I was 16 years old, I was in a horrific car accident. So bad that I ended up having to have brain surgery, actually, in which they shaved my head, cut me open from ear to ear in my scalp, pulled my face down, pulled my brain back, and had to do all of this work. And then they sewed me back up. So I actually have a scar that runs all the way across here. So that is why it looked like an upside down cross. It's because my hairline grew back super, super funky. Now that we have that out of the way, can we please curb all those comments and questions, and can we just talk about true crime, because this is ridiculous. Anyways, love you guys. There's the explanation. Let's not spend any more time on that. All right, so let's talk about this case. So as I mentioned, 43-year-old Gabriel Quintanilla was found dead in a field by a rancher earlier this month. He had suffered a brutal and graphic beating with blunt force trauma to his head. And when police arrived, they were completely shocked. They didn't know who this man was, who was responsible, but upon learning the identity of the victim, all of the puzzle pieces started to come together. Police soon learned that Gabriel wasn't just an innocent victim at all. In fact, he was a wanted man. Gabriel was wanted on charges of continuous essay against a child and family violence. Gabriel also had a 2019 arrest warrant out for him, and Gabriel allegedly had repeatedly essayed this girl between the years of 2014 and 2016. So definitely not an innocent person. He had all of these charges, had an arrest warrant, and this was starting to paint the picture for law enforcement as to not only who this man is and identifying him, but also leading them to believe, okay, maybe now we can kind of narrow in our pool of suspects to see who's responsible. Perhaps it ties to one of these earlier crimes. Now, these charges stemmed back to, remember, 2019, and apparently police had been trying to track Gabriel down for years, but they've been unable to since that 2019 arrest warrant was issued. And detectives had gone out to look for Gabriel at his last known residence. They went to his mother's residence multiple times. No matter what they were doing, they could not find him. His name was also entered into the national database, and he had been on the run ever since that warrant was issued. He was being elusive, he was being evasive, he was just basically hiding out, and that was until his body was found earlier this month. He had gotten away and he had been under the radar until he wasn't under the radar and he was found and he was no longer alive. So could this be what was the cause of this brutal, deadly beating? Was it retaliation, or was this something completely unrelated and something else? Well, unfortunately, as we all know, history oftentimes repeats itself. And in Gabriel's case, his bad behavior not only repeated itself, but it also caught up to him. Allegedly, earlier this month, Gabriel's 9-year-old daughter made an outcry to her family members. She was at her home with her mother, and she confided in her mother and told her that her father had been essaying her. She also confided in her 2 older half-brothers, 18-year-old Alejandro and 17-year-old Christian. And reportedly, when the brothers found out about this, they became enraged, which I think we all can agree. If we heard some information about, this happening to one of our loved ones, our friends, a younger sibling, I would imagine all of us would be pretty outraged. And so the 2 brothers decided to confront Gabriel, and they confronted him right then and there at the residence. It's also unclear if the brothers knew about Gabriel's history, because remember, he was on the run, he was hiding, he had previous charges of essay against a young child. It's unclear if they knew about these or if they heard his, their little half-sister's outcries, and then this was, to them, a brand new incident. So Alejandro and Christian confront Gabriel, and immediately, a fight ensues before Gabriel then takes off running. Alejandro and Christian then run after Gabriel, and they cornered him in a nearby apartment complex. That's where this second fight erupted. And not only was it between the 2 brothers, but their friend joined in. Their friend Juan Melendez, who is 18 years old, joined in with the brothers and joined in on this second fight. The 3 teenagers ultimately left the scene during the fight, towards the end of the fight, to go retrieve one of their vehicles, an F-150. And then they went back to go look for Gabriel to see, I guess, to start a third altercation or finish the altercation. The 2 brothers, along with their friend, ended up driving around looking for Gabriel, and they stumbled across him. He was injured walking alone alongside the road, and they decided to attack him for a 3rd time. They then beat Gabriel for the 3rd time, reportedly beating him to a bloody pulp using brass knuckles. A very, very harsh beating. They then threw Gabriel's body into the bed of that F-150 and took off. So when I had first heard this, my suspicion and belief was that when they left after that second altercation to go get the vehicle, I believe they knew what they were going to be doing as far as ultimately beating him up so badly he either couldn't walk or couldn't move or perhaps couldn't breathe. And I think that they needed that vehicle in order to transport the body. Otherwise, I don't quite know why they would have stopped mid-fight to go get a vehicle and then go back looking for him a 3rd time. And that's just my personal opinion and belief on what happened, but we'll talk more about that. So they throw Gabriel's body into the bed of the truck. And as I mentioned earlier, Gabriel had suffered from severe head trauma, and it said that he actually may have been alive when his body was put in the bed of that truck. Then they drive off to this open field and they dumped his body. It didn't take the police long to piece these suspects and these teens to the crime. And so ultimately, the 3 teens were arrested.
On 10, 3 teens were charged today for the murder of a 43-year-old man. We first brought you this story Thursday when FAR police were searching for suspects after the death of Gabriel Quintanilla. And then on Friday, investigators linked 3 teens. You can see on your screen on the left is 17-year-old Christian Trevino. In the center, 18-year-old Alejandro Trevino. And on the right is 19-year-old Juan Melendez. Quintanilla was found in a McAllen field, and police say that several fights broke out at different locations after Quintanilla was accused of touching his 9-year-old daughter, who was also the half-sibling to the Trevino brothers. Quintanilla was left in a field severely beaten.
Investigation revealed that the victim was hurt, beaten with a brass knuckles and suffered severe head trauma at that point. Although the victim was severely beaten, the victim may have still have been alive when he was there and McAllen. We don't know for how long.
One of the brothers, 17-year-old Christian, and his friend Juan Melendez have been charged with capital murder, aggravated assault, and engaging in organized criminal activity. The 18-year-old brother, Alejandro, was charged with aggravated assault and also engaging in criminal organized activity. However, capital murder charges were not filed against Alejandro because allegedly Christian and Juan were the two who apparently delivered the deadly blows to Gabriel, ultimately resulting in taking his life. Now, as for the organized criminal activity charges, personally, and there might be different opinions out there, I feel like this wasn't necessarily needed or warranted and kind of feels like a stretch. They aren't engaging in organized crime. Yes, they all got together, I guess, on a technicality and went to, and fought him multiple times. So I could see where that is considered an organized criminal unit, but to tie these young teens to an organized criminal activity charge just seems, I think, like a stretch. I don't know. What do you guys think? So now we're going to watch the press conference really quick, and this is where the police chief explains not only what exactly happened, but more details about the case. And then we also see the arraignment of the three teens. And what I find so interesting during this arraignment is you can see that there are people in the corner of the teens who are rallying behind them. And we're going to talk more about that specifically because of the public outrage this case has sparked after we watch this press conference and arraignment.
When you have a case like this, really there's a lot of moving parts to it. It's complex into where we have a body originally that was discovered in McAllen. And then from there, it's detectives have to follow up on information and to reveal who actually were the suspects in the case. On Thursday evening at an RV park at 1201 East Moore, a female minor made an outcry to her mom about being inappropriately touched by her father, Gabriel Quintanilla, which is the deceased in this case. When brothers Alejandro and Christian Trevino found out, they confronted Gabriel at the residence, and a physical fight ensued between the three, and the victim, Quintanilla, left the location on foot. Information and everything that I'm reading to you right now is what has been learned through detectives, through the work that has been done up to this point. Christian Trevino, he does run out. He runs after the victim, Quintanilla, and finds him outside of an apartment complex, which is further south down the road there. In FAR, we have a complex that's just south of where this residence is at. A second assault occurs there. And Alejandro Trevino, and the driver of a red Dodge Charger, who we've identified as Juan Melendez, catch up to him and again join in an assault towards the victim at that point. The three suspects leave the location, change vehicles, drive back in a white Ford F-150, and found the victim walking along what we believe is Veterans Road, alone and injured from his two previous injuries that had occurred. A third assault occurs, and the victim is at that point severely beaten more. The victim, who is still alive, is placed in the bed of the truck, and they drive off, and they end up in an area of McCall and Wayland Road, where the victim was dropped off in the open field, and that's where my camp police originally found the body at. The suspects fled at that time. So, investigation revealed that the victim was hurt, beaten with a brass knuckles, and suffered severe head trauma at that point. Although the victim was severely beaten, the victim may have still have been alive when he was there at McAllen. We don't know for how long what that is. What we do know is when he was located by that individual there in McAllen, and the police were called. That's where they essentially found out he was not alive. So. We do have the arraignment that's going to be held here at 3 p.m. Downstairs at the court, and I'll read the charges that these three individuals will be being presented with here in a moment. Alejandro Trevino, aggravated assault and engaged in organized criminal activity. Christian Trevino, aggravated assault, capital murder, engaging in organized criminal activity. And then we got a third individual, Juan Melendez, capital murder, aggravated assault, and engaging in organized criminal activity. To conclude on this report, the investigation was complex and having multiple scenes, and also having to work with the first agency who ultimately provided information and then FAR took lead on the case. That's where we're at with this point, and we believe that all individuals that were involved in this homicide are in custody.
A few questions, if you will. Clarification: is it Alejandro, or does it have is it X or a J?
Alejandro, it's Alexandro.
Okay, perfect. And then why is the Alejandro individual not facing murder charges, but the other two are?
What I can share on that part, since there was multiple assaults that occurred, the assaults where we believe ultimately caused the death of this individual, those were the individuals that were charged for that.
Got it. And then also wondering, you all put out that the victim was wanted for continuous sexual assault of the family and assault family violence.
Yes.
Is that a separate issue, or is that incident also connected to this the specific outcry from the female?
No, that's a separate issue. Those were cases that had previously been filed, that were currently filed within our agency, but from an understanding years past.
And are the two suspects, Alejandro and Christian, his sons, Nia's sons?
No.
And then sorry.
No problem.
Lastly, do we know the relationship between the third suspect and the deceased male?
Third suspects and the deceased male.
Juan Melendez.
Juan Melendez.
Juan Eduardo.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And the victim,
Yes.
there's no relationship.
Okay, thank you.
So was he like friends with the other two?
Yes, yes, there are, the two of them, the two are brothers, and the other one is an individual that we believe that they called. So when he came out, they came to pick him up in a white truck. Originally, we had looked for a red Charger that was there. So that was a vehicle that originally they were in. When the second assault happened, this individual, the victim, started walking south from these apartments, which we believe is on Veterans Road. At that point, that's where they picked up this other individual and said, "Hey, look, this is where we're at," and fight ensued, a second fight ensued. But we believe that the reason that they picked up a truck is to transport him, not wanting to do it in the Dodge Charger.
One last thing that just came to mind, what about the young minor who made the outcry? Have any services been made available to her and the mother and the family?
Yes, we're currently working with that minor and with other children that were at the home as well.
So just to clarify, the two brothers have no relation with the victim?
No. It's
Stepchildren.
sorry.
So the brothers are his stepson.
Stepsons,
They're stepsons.
yes.
Okay. Another question. Do you happen to know why they made several assaults in different locations? Why were they going back and forth?
Well, what happened is the original assault happened at a residence there on 1201 East Moore. So he left on foot since he didn't have a car. So when he left on foot, they decided, you know what, they're still angry. So they went back and they found him, which is an apartment complex about a block away. When they found him, they got into another altercation. And typically what you have in these cases, if they're going to assault them, then they leave, right? And then, whatever the case may be, the person has somebody pick them up. In this case, that wasn't their decision. They said, you know what, we're going to do this. And then when they left for that second time, they said, no, we want to go back a third time. So ultimately, they wanted to seriously injure this person.
I'm Gabriel Quintanilla, Principal Protector of the City of FAR. Your name, sir?
Alejandro and Trevino.
And your name, sir?
Juan Melendez.
your name, sir?
Christian Trevino.
Okay, Mr. Alejandro Trevino,
Yes, sir.
you're charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, which is a first-degree felony. Do you understand the charge?
I don't know what weapon I was using, but
Well, we're not here to determine whether or not you're guilty. That will be determined at the district court. I'm just letting you know that you are charged with this offense. That's called aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Do you understand that?
yes, sir.
And a first degree felony means that if you're found guilty, you could receive from 5 to 99 years in prison and a fine of up to $10,000. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
You're also charged with engaging in organized criminal activity, which is a first degree felony. Do you understand the charge?
Yes, sir.
And again, a first degree felony means that if you're found guilty, you could receive from 5 to 99 years in prison and a fine of up to $10,000. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Melendez,
Yes, sir.
there's a misdemeanor charge of possession of marijuana, which is a class B misdemeanor. Do you understand the charge? Do you understand the charge?
Yes, sir.
And a class B misdemeanor means that if you're found guilty, you could receive a 180 days in jail and a fine of up to $2,000. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
There's also a charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, which is a second degree felony. Do you understand the charge?
Yes, Your Honor, but I don't know what.
Okay. Again, we're not here to determine whether or not you're guilty. If you want to make statements, you can go to do that. But we're not here for that purpose. You're going to have a chance to present your case at the district court. I'm just here to tell you what you're charged with, explain what that means. I'm going to tell you what your rights are in a while. That's what we're here for. And again, it's aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, second degree felony, which means that if you're found guilty, you could receive up to 20 years in prison, from 2 to 20 years in prison, and a fine of up to $10,000. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're also charged with capital murder, a first degree felony, which means that if you're found guilty, you could receive death or life in prison. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're charged with engaging in organized criminal activity, which is a first degree felony. Do you understand the charge?
Yes, Your Honor.
And a first degree felony means that if you're found guilty, you could receive from 5 to 99 years in prison and a fine of up to $10,000. Do you understand that? Sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Trevino, you're charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, which is a first degree felony. Do you understand the charge?
Yes, Your Honor.
And a first degree felony means that if you're found guilty, you could receive from 5 to 99 years in prison and a fine of up to $10,000. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're also charged with capital murder, a first degree felony. Do you understand the charge?
Yes, Your Honor.
And capital murder, first degree felony means that if you're found guilty, you could receive death or life in prison and a fine of up to $10,000. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And there's a third charge of engaging in organized criminal activity, a first degree felony. Do you understand the charge?
Yes, Your Honor.
And again, a first degree felony means that if you're found guilty, you could receive from 5 to 99 years in prison and a fine of up to $10,000. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to tell each of you what your rights are. You tell me what you understand your rights. You each have the right to hire an attorney and to have your attorney present to advise you before and during any interview or questioning by police officers or attorneys representing the state. You have the right to remain silent and to say anything against you in court of law. You have the right to stop an interview or question at any time. You have the right to an examining trial, and if you cannot afford an attorney, you have the right to request that one be appointed for you. Mr. Alejandro Trevino, do you understand the rights?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Juan Melendez, do you understand the rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Christian Trevino, do you understand the rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to ask the district court to appoint an attorney for each of you. If you want to hire one on your own, you can go ahead and do that. And Mr. Melendez, in reference to the possession of marijuana charge, the class B misdemeanor, I'm going to ask the county court of law to appoint an attorney for you. If you want to hire one on your own, you can go ahead and do that. And Mr. Alejandro Trevino, are you a U.S. citizen?
No, I'm not, sir.
Are you a citizen of Mexico?
Yes.
If you're a citizen of Mexico, then you can ask that the notify the consulate of Mexico that you've been detained. Do you want us to notify the consulate? No, Your Honor. And Mr. Melendez, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Christian Trevino, you are a U.S. citizen?
No, sir.
You're a citizen of Mexico?
Yes, sir.
Since you're a citizen of Mexico, you could ask to notify the consulate of Mexico that you've been detained. Do you want us to notify the consulate?
No, sir.
Mr. Alejandro, in reference to the aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, I'm gonna say your bond at $500,000 cash or sure. In reference to the engaging in organized criminal activity, I'm gonna say your bond at $500,000 cash for sure. Mr. Melendez, I'm setting your bond for the possession of marijuana charge that class B misdemeanor at $2,000 cash or sure. The aggravated assault charge at $500,000 cash for sure. The capital murder charge at $500,000 cash for sure. The engaging in organized criminal activity and $500,000 cash for sure. And Mr. Christian Trevino, I'm gonna set your bond for the aggravated assault with a deadly weapon at $500,000 cash for sure. The capital murder charge at $500,000 cash for sure. The engaging in organized criminal activity at $500,000 cash for sure. Each of you will be transported to the county jail. You can make arrangements there. You want to visit with an attorney, 1-6 appointment. And Mr. Alejandro, do you have any questions?
Does it really matter what I say?
Any questions? That's not a question.
I have no question.
Mr. Juan Melendez, do you have any questions?
I have no question.
And Mr. Christian Trevino, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, so this case has sparked a ton of media attention, and a lot of people in the public are rallying alongside these three teens. Not only family members, but just the public in general, saying that this crime was justified, that Gabriel was a predator, that he deserved it, and that these three boys should not be being punished to the degree in which they are. So many people are rallying behind these boys, in fact, that in just 2 days, over 204,000 signatures were added to a petition that was made calling for the release of Christian, Alejandro, and their friend Juan. More than 200,000 people have now signed this petition, and the petition is basically calling for the boys' freedom, especially because of the capital murder charges and because their bond was set at over $1 million. And everybody in the public and everybody who's signing this petition that is just like so heated about this case and the way it's being handled is saying not only was the crime justified, but this stepfather was raping their 9-year-old sister. Of course it was a crime of passion and a crime of retaliation and outrage, but also he previously had 2019 charges for doing this against another young child. And while that he was elusive and, hiding from police, and so they couldn't quite nail him down and arrest him, it's like you can't help but wonder, had possibly that case and that arrest warrant and things been handled a little differently, and I get it was like right at the beginning of the pandemic and things got scarce in terms of manpower for different teams, but you can't help but wonder, had that been handled differently, had he been in custody, could this entire tragedy with their young sister been avoided? Possibly. And in this petition, it states, "We ask that the state of Texas release these teenagers who could possibly spend the rest of their life in prison for just protecting their sister. The three teenagers are in custody and have their bonds set at over $1 million each. If convicted of capital murder, they face a minimum sentence of life imprisonment without parole." Now, one of the things I think, too, that is making the public so upset about this case is not only because of the charges in general, because they were trying to protect their sister and because this guy is an alleged dirtbag, but also their sentence if they are found guilty. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. And they're teenagers, they're very young, and Not to say that you shouldn't be punished when you commit a crime, especially if you take the life of somebody. But is life without parole warranted in this situation, given the details of the crime and the suspect of the crime? And I mean, the crime against the 9-year-old sister is, of course, what I mean by that. And I don't know, I'm kind of torn on this because while I don't necessarily support vigilante justice, I think if we went down that road, it would just be chaos all day long on the streets. Everybody would be taking matters into their own hands. So I think that there has to have some sort of checks and balance within that system. But at the same time, I do think that in situations like this that are a bit gray, there does need to be special considerations made. And maybe that's naive of me, and I'm not saying these guys should be, walk free necessarily, but if there is valid proof of these crimes that were committed, not only the 2019, but also then against the sister, I would imagine that some of that has to be taken into account and into play, especially maybe when it comes in regards to not necessarily the charges or the verdict, but perhaps the sentencing. I don't know. What do you guys think on this? Because so many people are saying that they shouldn't have been charged, period. So many people are saying absolutely not the capital murder charges. I guess it's just really a sticky situation. It's very personal. It's very personal as far as what your view on this is. Because again, vigilante justice can become very scary and get out of hand very, very quickly. But at what point do you draw the line and say, we understand why you did this, and so we're going to give you a little bit of leeway, maybe with the sentencing. Again, maybe not with the arrest itself or the charges, because again, at the end of the day, they took it into their own hands and they took this person's life. But I just think life without parole seems very, very, like, just such a tough sentence on these 3 kids who were truly just trying to protect their innocent 9-year-old sister who was defenseless and helpless, who personally probably shouldn't have even been in that situation had earlier cases with this man been handled differently. As I said at the top of this video, a lot of people are talking about this, and a lot of people have been sending me this article, asking me to request it. I see people posting about it on social media, but nobody's really talking about it or following what's been happening. So I'm going to try to follow it a little bit more closely. I'm going to see what this petition actually does, if it makes any sort of movement with this case, if it reduces the charges in any way. I'm going to see what happens when we go to the pretrial or the prelim hearing, then to the pretrial. I just kind of want us to watch this and see how it goes, because there have been a lot of cases in the media recently where there have been opposing views on what the outcome should be, whether it is, I think it was Kim Potter? I think it was Kim Potter. We know Kyle Rittenhouse. All of these other cases, which I guess like that also kind of veers off into more of, different issues rather than this, obviously. But in any event, it still comes down to division between whether somebody should be, sentenced and found guilty or not. And I can already foreshadow and foresee that this case is going to have a lot of public uproar, no matter which way it goes. So I'm going to follow closely, and I'll keep you guys updated as we go through it, and as we get more information, and if this goes to trial and where we go from there. So again, if you want to follow along with that, make sure that you have subscribed if you haven't done so already. Also, please give this video a thumbs up on your way out. It is an easy way to support the channel. And let me know what you guys think in the comments below. At what point is vigilante justice okay or excusable? And at what point is there certain allowances that should be made when it comes to the punishment of certain crimes like this when they're handled, in somebody's own personal hands? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in with me today. Hope you enjoyed the coverage, and I will see you very, very soon. Until the next case, stay safe. Bye.